Hi friends, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie if you're new here, and today we're going to be looking at the ILNP New Year's Eve collection. So this is their second release for the winter season, and it features 6 really fun and sparkly shades. So let's just get into the swatches. The first polish is Ruby, and it's just described as a vibrant red shimmer polish. So at first I thought these were going to be metallics, but they're definitely more of that jelly flaky formula. So this polish specifically has a vibrant ruby red base that's a little translucent, but still provides really great coverage on the first coat. And of course it is packed with those tiny red to orange shifting micro flakies and red shimmer. I personally think this is one of the most metallic looking in the collection, and I was actually really blown away by how beautiful and sparkly this applied. So I ended up just needing 2 coats for full coverage, and again, there's just so much depth to this shade with those flakies and the shimmer in the jelly base. It just looks super glitzy and so perfect for the holiday season. This is definitely one of my favorites after I put it on. And here you can see how it brightens up once it's in the sun. I feel like the sunlight just makes all of those flakies glow. The next polish is Good Fortune, and don't mind my bottle, it has a little bit of ugly bottle syndrome where all the flakies are just in the back, but this one is a deep Kelly green jelly base with a bright green micro flaky that shifts to purple and blue in more extreme angles. So this one was definitely more on the jelly side, where it was really squishy looking on the first coat and a little bit patchy here and there. So you can definitely still see through to my nail line, but I still got really great coverage. I only needed 2 coats to make this one fully opaque, probably because the base is so deep. And this is one of the polishes that I think has less of that metallic look to it. I don't know if the flakies in this one are just bigger or a little bit more sparse than in Ruby, or maybe this one just doesn't have as much shimmer running throughout to fill in the gaps, so to speak. But yeah, I wasn't super into this shade, mainly for the specific shade of green, more so than the formula. I mean, it looks beautiful, like it's a really sparkly polish, but I'm just not super into this specific shade of green. Next up we have Invite Only, which is like this bright aqua blue jelly that's packed with teal and green flakies that shift to like a royal blue and purple color in more extreme angles. So this one honestly surprised me with how bright it was. As you can see, the first coat was a little bit more sheer due to that lighter base color, but it still was fully opaque for me in 2 coats. And those flakies are absolutely stunning. And while I do love the aqua and green flakies, I almost wish the color shift was flipped so that you'd see the royal blue and purple primarily. I don't know, I think this color as it is just reminds me too much of a summer color. But then again, if the color was flipped, it would end up looking too similar to the next polish, so I guess it's interesting to have this more vibrant teal in the middle of winter, but you'll have to let me know what you think of this shade of blue. I found that this one had that similar flaky jelly finish as the last polish, and it was really sparkly. The next shade is Last Call, which is this intense indigo blurple jelly base that's packed with those royal blue and purple microflakes, and they shift to like a bright fuchsia and even green in more extreme angles. I feel like this one is going to be such a standout for most people because it's such a vibrant purpley blue shade that I think is just so fun for the season. This one had a really great formula too. I mean, as you can see, it's nearly opaque in the first coat, but I still did 2 for full coverage. And I feel like this one leans more towards that super intense sparkly finish that like borders on being metallic. I'm not sure if I'm describing it that well, but hopefully you can see what the difference is compared to the last 2 polishes where the flakies are a little bit more prominent. Also, let me know if you think this shade leans more blue or purple, because I keep going back and forth. It's like a true blurple shade, and it's just so perfect. If anything, I think in the sun it leans a little bit more blue. And the last colorful shade that we have in the collection is Showstopper, which is this vivid magenta jelly base with a hot pink microflake that shifts to orange and green in extreme angles. So I think this shade is most similar to the last polish in that it has a very strong shimmer along with the microflakes, so it can end up looking slightly metallic and just very sparkly. It has a little bit of a sheer base on the first coat like the others, but again, I found it to be fully opaque for me in just 2 coats. So overall, the formulas on these were really great, and I love how they brighten up so much in the sun too. So even though this is pink, I do hesitate to call this one my favorite from the collection, just because I don't usually go for pinks like this. But after putting it on, I was just so in love with it because it is so pretty. And this is definitely the shade that I would wear if I was gonna have a night out on the town. You know what I mean? This is just so fun, and I don't know, a little flirty, I guess. Like, it's really beautiful, but I think I would still call Ruby my favorite from the collection. This is a close second though. And rounding out the collection, we have Ball Drop, which is described as a confetti of color shifting flakies. So I decided to try this one at the end just to see how it would layer over the polishes, but I actually really hated it. I think it's just a little too much going on for me, but I figured I can still show you in case you were curious. So it is a little bit of a bummer, at least for me personally, that this topper isn't really going to work well with the rest of the collection. I just prefer iridescent flakies like this over a solid color, so I'm going to be showing it over black and white, and in my opinion, it just looks so much better. Over the black, you can see all of that rainbow color just like popping, and it really is like the perfect confetti glitter. It's just so cute. I think over black, it also looks most similar to what's in the bottle, but over white, it is completely different. And I personally love it over white even more because you get that kind of blue base color of the flakes. It's just mind-blowing to me. Now moving on to comparisons, I'm only going to show bottle comparisons to some of the previous ILNP releases because they're not similar at all. So I'm starting with Ruby and Poison, and Poison just has more of a blackened red base and is also magnetic, and the shimmer just has a more fiery orange look to it. So for a better comparison, I wanted to show Ruby next to Holo Taco's Favorite Sister, which came out a few months ago and I think is still available. So right away, these do have different formulas where Holo Taco is actually a foil metallic and it features some silver, highly reflective flakes along with hollow sparkles. So while they're both great holiday reds, I think I would call Favorite Sister more of a cherry red, and it generally looks brighter due to how reflective it is. But both of these are definitely gorgeous, and I don't know, part of me wants to say that I still like Ruby a little bit more. I think I'm just more of a fan of the deeper kind of metallic reds. Next up we have Good Fortune, and I'm showing it next to Venom, also from the Trapped collection. And this one is more of an olive green magnetic shimmer in a blackened green base. So I feel like the shimmer almost has that same bluish purple shift if you look at the corners of the bottle, but that's the only thing that's really similar about them. So for my actual comparison, I want to show this one next to Zoya Merida, which is one of my absolute favorite sparkly greens. This is their scattered hollow formula, so it features hollow flakies in a slightly jelly base, but Merida is more of a pine green, and the flakes are silver and holographic, while the ones in ILNP are more green and more of that duochrome finish. I think these are similar enough formula-wise, but when it comes to color, I'm more of a fan of Merida. Next, for invite only, here's what it looks like next to 0 Degrees from their Winter Wonderland collection. 0 Degrees is magnetic, but the shimmer is more of an icy blue, so I don't think these are similar at all. But funny enough, I did think invite only was more similar to Twice in a Blue Moon from Holo. In the bottle, they definitely seem like they have that same royal blue to purple shift going on, but Holo is also magnetic with a much finer shimmer that I think gives it more of a satin effect, whereas ILNP has more noticeable flaky particles, and again, it just leans a little bit more into that bright aqua teal color, which in my opinion makes it look a little bit more summery, but again, I'm interested in hearing what you think of these blues for winter. For last call, I don't really have a great comparison, but I thought maybe some of these polishes gave me similar vibes to Cirque's Discotheque collection earlier this year. So the closest being Night Fever, which is a purple jelly base with an intense blue shimmer and hollow sparkles. But on the nail, they're nothing alike since Cirque is more of a shimmer. Hopefully you can see what I mean though when I mentioned the ILNP shades looking a bit more metallic compared to actual shimmers. So for Showstopper, I immediately thought of Ruby Riches from China Glaze, which I think came out last winter, but it's this bright ruby magenta with red shimmer. And they kind of look similar in the bottle, but on the nail, the China Glaze looks just a little bit more red than pink. And it just looks more red than I remember it. But in certain angles, I think the shimmer leans a little bit pink, so that's probably what I was thinking of when it comes to this being a potential dupe. So maybe in the sun, these two would look more similar. And lastly, for Ball Drop, I'm going to be comparing it to Fantasia by Cirque, which came out in their Fantastical collection this past summer. They're obviously not dupes due to the difference in size of their flakies, but color-wise, I feel like these are pretty comparable, especially comparing to a bunch of other flaky toppers that I have, which I did review in the Cirque collection video. So yeah, again, color-wise, if anything, they're a little bit more similar. So I'm showing each of these in one coat over white, and you'll just have to let me know if you prefer the bigger, more irregular flakies that's in Cirque, or if you like more of the refined confetti style of ILNP. So that wraps up my swatches and comparisons for the ILNP New Year's Eve collection. So as always, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this release, because when I first shared them on Instagram, there were a couple of you that were very excited, you know, typical, expected, but a few of you were not that interested in these. And to be completely honest, when I first saw the collection as well, I was like, okay, this is very different. You know, normally when I think of New Year's Eve, I think of black and silver and gold and just kind of those typical like metallic colors. But those can so easily be overdone. So it was actually kind of refreshing to see such a colorful lineup of, you know, shades for the holiday. But yeah, it was one of those where they just kind of grew on me. So once I swatched them and kind of like, you know, got to admire them a little bit, see the formulas and see how they actually look on the nails, I ended up enjoying them a lot more than I thought that I would. So, you know, I think with the exception of the green, not that it's bad by any means, it's just like that particular shade of green I'm not the biggest fan of. But for the rest of them, I think they're just so beautiful. So I actually like these. So I'm curious to know what you all think, and if you're going to be picking these up, or if you're not really feeling them, if you would prefer seeing something that it's like, you know, black and all those kind of mixed metals type of look for New Year's Eve. Let me know any and all thoughts that you have down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.